Welcome to Southside Stories, the podcast about real London business, hosted by Matt Whittingham.
Hello, I'm Matt Whittingham, and welcome to the latest episode of Southside Stories, the podcast where we talk to really interesting people in business in and around Southwark. Sometimes we go a bit broader than that. If you're interested in following us, then we're on all the major podcast platforms, I think. So just hit follow or notifications, because as always, lots of really interesting guests coming up. And today we have Karl with us. Hello, Karl.
Hello, Matt. Thank you for inviting us onto the show.
Yeah, well, great. Really great to have you. I'm really looking forward to this conversation because Karl is an architect from GTH Architects. Some amazing work that the team there have been doing over the years. So we're going to talk all about architecture and Karl's career. In fact, let's get into it, Karl. 30 years in now to your profession. You must have seen...
You're giving my age away.
Sorry about that. But you must have seen an amazing amount of change over those 30 years in the profession.
Enormous, yes. I qualified when I was, in 90, I think it was. And the first practice that I worked at, Richard Reed Architects down in Sevenoaks, had one computer in the entire office, which was used by the secretary, the receptionist. Everybody else had drawing boards. We would diligently sit there with our Tervakovsky paper, which is like a tracing paper that you overlay and overlay and overlay. And we all learned how to get to grips with the geometries of buildings, plans and facades and the like. And that gradually started to be replaced, or the board started to be replaced with computers and AutoCAD to start with, which is effectively a drafting computer program. So you're substituting your hand-drawn lines with computerized lines, vectors. And after that, we progressed to building information modeling, which is it's a game changer. You find yourself making whole virtual models of the buildings that we ultimately are delivering. And that has just become, it's incredible. It takes over the process in a way that 30 years ago was unimaginable. It's terrific. And we're still progressing beyond this point. It's quite scary as to where things are going, but I know we'll talk about that later on.
Do you ever miss any of those early years when you did have the board and you had the paper and that tactileness of your pen to paper?
I still have it, Matt. So I don't miss it. I still use it. I try to encourage the team as well to use use their pens and to do the same sort of exercise because it's so quick. The way that the process of creating information that we have now is enormously quick, but still there's an intuitive speed and efficiency that you can bring into play if you can draw. But drawing is not always seen as an important skill as it used to be in the profession, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking, I remember my first job. Same thing really. I was more in marketing in my career, but we had a fax machine. We had a fax machine. We had one PC, running WordPerfect, I think it was, and that was pretty much it. And in those days, people were smoking in the office. It just seems a whole universe away. I mean, how do you, because it's a challenge for all of us keeping up with the technology. Are you very hands-on with it, or have you got a champion in the team that's sort of taking that mantle?
We have various guys and girls in the business that are very enthusiastic about it. So it's kind of trying to limit them rather than forcing them into doing things. One of the things that we've just taken on a relationship with a kind of an AI organization that is specifically focused on architectural workflows. And they have a little bit of a sort of a pathway, a pathfinder aspect to their service. I mean, we're buying a service from them. There's no getting away from it. But there is certain components to it where we can engage more kind of on a one-to-one basis rather than just receiving a package from ChatGPT or something like that. And bring our specific issues to the conversation in a way that will ultimately help shape the product in the future and allow us to benefit. But it's a suite of stuff that is early doors for them as an organization, but gradually coordinating the various undertakings that we have to do, sort of report writing, the specifications, and all of that stuff is being incorporated into this single interface, which is really good because there's so many different platforms out there. You can spend an eternity just trying to make sense of individual ones, and then you realize that there's a whole world over to the other side, So it's quite a it's exciting, scary, and it just brings a new dimension to what we do. When you see how quickly, for instance, plans can be organized in a way that's taking on board all of the constraints of a site, all of the building regulations, and so on and so forth. The sort of the legislation in terms of compliance, and it just like merges all of this into a solution that you can then just tweak. It's fabulous.
That's how, I mean, architects do seem to be a profession where you've adopted new technology fairly quickly. But I think of visualization as well, and some of the technology in 3D modeling and all that stuff as well.
Yeah. You can. I mean, if you don't, you've got no chance.
Yeah,
it's an absolute must. There was a time when, and over the period of my career, you would have conversations with clients where they used to come up with, oh, do you use Revit? And Revit is just one of a plethora of different platforms. And it sort of showed people just beginning to get their head around the vocabulary of that offer. The people are just like now, just assume that that's what you're going to do. And, going forward, they will be assuming that we're using AI. I mean, every client worth his salt and every stakeholder is also engaging with it. So, it would make no sense not to be trying to sort of grapple with its capability.
Do you think it will, I mean, when you look at the business results, where do you think it will have the biggest impact? We'll move off AI in a minute, but it is a very interesting area. But where do you think it will have the biggest impact? Is it on speed? Is it on cost? Is it on your profitability? Or is it quality of design output? Or is the quality of design much more of a human-centric skill set still?
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Okay, so you can see that there are an awful lot of quite technical and labor-intensive aspects to the kind of workflows and information that we generate to make buildings, and AI and the various platforms that are certainly with the people that we're talking to are becoming more and more capable of speeding those processes up. The thing that, and never rule it out, but at the moment it's always requiring a human to provide the prompts, to tweak the work in a certain way, to bring it into a place that is more in line with your expectations. Now, that I suppose, speaks to that human engagement, which the AI at this moment in time is not able to deal with. I think that it will probably change the expectations that clients have in relation to projects. They will see architectural practices as not necessarily the providers of information and drawing services and specifications, but they will probably turn to practices that are able to focus on outputs. It may be that we're particularly good at delivering a planning application, planning permission really quickly. It may be that we have a particular skill in a particular sector that people will buy into, that can't be replaced by a simple, booting up an AI machine and focusing the attention more on. You can see that it will be the technical things, and then there'll be the human differentiator and the relationships and the service that's given by the practice. And yes, I dare say there will be an impact on fees, but through the differentiation, you'll be able to justify, maintaining the fees that you charge. Or I'd like to think so.
Yeah. Okay. Very interesting. Do you think, just going back to the original question about the 30 years, is it got more complicated designing and specifying buildings now? I mean, I'm thinking of Grenfell Building Safety Act and regulation around, especially in London, around sustainability, carbon emissions. Is it harder and more technical than it's ever been now to design great buildings?
I think that there's more. There's more compliance issues. You can't. There's very few things now that you can specify that are not backed up with certification. So the days of old, there would be workarounds. You'd say, oh, I know how to keep the water out in this particular way, and I'll do that. But now, if you start to go rogue in a sense and not use a certified system, you'll find yourself being rejected by building control, or the sort of fire engineer will start to have a problem with what you're doing. So, is it more complicated? Probably from the perspective that you need to have far more paperwork, or not paperwork, but virtual paperwork to back your designs up. Don't think that takes away creativity. I think sometimes they say good fences make good neighbors. I think that good compliance makes for more imaginative solutions, because you're given rails that keep you on track, but allow you to find imaginative ways to deliver on those limitations. And you don't see, certainly in and around globally, or even the city, you see fantastic buildings still going up, and you've got a compliance regime that is far beyond where it used to be. So I think that yes, it's more, to a degree, more complicated in some ways, because you can't ad lib in the way that you might have done, but it's no resounding limitation on what's possible.
Yeah. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit to the work, if you like. The visual outputs, the buildings that you've been designing, and we'll put in the show notes some links to the GTH site. And if you're at all interested in architecture, to listeners, please go and check them out, because there's some great, very interesting work to look at there. And Karl, looking at what your portfolio's been, residential, workplace, education sectors, very strong pedigree there. What pulled you towards those particular areas?
There's no question. Personally, are really attracted to the settings of the everyday. housing. You spend your time with your family. You nurture your friendships. You engage with your community, and then you've got schools. Everybody goes to school, has a sort of adjacency to a school in some way. It's an everyday thing. And then work as well. We all go to work. We all try to be the best that we can at work. And those are the everydays, I kind of like have absolute respect for people who design health centers and hospitals and football stadiums. But, I just like the everyday stuff. As a practice, we've kind of geared ourselves into that space, which, is more than complicated enough. But at the same time, incredibly rewarding. You're affecting, you're impacting and hopefully improving people's lives and in a very visceral way, so that's the driver.
And I love your values that I think joyful places, enduring value, and let's talk about what that means for you, and perhaps a couple of examples there. What would you, when we think of a joyful place, what in your current portfolio, what great work springs to mind there?
Well, just in terms of what those things mean. So joyful places. There's a quiet. It's about quietly improving everyday life, basically. Making things intuitive, easy to use, making people feel safe, comfortable, and the welcome in their environments, making them making spaces that encourage engagement with other people. It's not about grand architectural gestures, more about experience. And we've been really focused on experience throughout, as long as I can remember in the practice. It's like you want people to feel better when they're in the building and when they've, better than when they've arrived. And it's a case of, very, very gently, looking at using that as a filtering device in some ways to help us make decisions. And then you see the connection with enduring value, where you can imagine, if a place delivers joy, it starts to create an attachment for people, and then that starts to give rise to a longevity. That longevity then turns into people care for the building that they're engaged with there, and that takes you to a position where they look after it. The building has value for a long period of time, and invest in it continuously. So they're interconnected and inseparable as far as we're concerned. Mm-hmm. and then just how do we see that play out? When we spoke earlier on, the notion of just seeing people within the confines of the mechanisms that are taking place in the building. It's not just it's not the building. The building facilitates things to happen. Good food matters. The teaching kitchen project that we have is a really amazing point where people's lives who are they may have been struggling and finding employment difficult to find and the like, end up involved in this organization, and you can see their lives being turned around by the process of engaging with the proprietors of the space. They give them confidence. They help them, in very practical terms, learn how to grow food, cook food, actually begin to get the confidence to go out there and find work, and the success rate is amazing. And then just simple things like creating workplaces where people are really enthusiastic, enthused to actually make the effort to go to work because there's places to think, there's choice, there's light, there's air. They go to meet their colleagues and collaborate. And then there's alternative places where they can do concentrated work. And it's analyzing the way that the building actually can create those opportunities that we see as the manner in which joy can be brought to the equation. So it's for us, it's quite an easy way of deciding whether or not something is worth pursuing or whether or not we should kind of think of something else that's more effective, and we're all about trying to improve lives. There's a distinction between joy and happiness. Happiness is very fleeting, and yes, we want people to be happy, but joy is much more sustained. And if you can crack that, it's a very, I think, valuable thing to bring to the conversation.
Yes, I mean, I work from home a lot, but I love getting out and visiting people where they work. And I'm working with somebody at, they're more of like an interior architectural practice within the WPP group, and they're in sea containers, just along the Thames here. And I walk into that building and I go up to his floor, and it's just beautiful, it's just, and it is. I just like to hang out here. It's just such a nice, nice environment. And I saw on your website that one of your examples, actually, which is the Lewisham and Southwark College, and we spoke briefly about the fact that in there you got there's a wonderful atrium. Well, tell us a little bit about that. There's a wonderful atrium and a fantastic spot for students to have joyful moments.
So, I mean, that's an absolute classic retrofit building. It's an existing building that has been significantly improved, as in refurbished, and then a new building that has been incorporated on the same site, right next to it. And in between, there was this opportunity to create a sort of mixing space, a hub, which is multi-leveled, so people are able to look across, engage with their friends, and look down into the space. And it's an absolutely, it's a thriving place that just sits behind the cut which joins Southwark with Waterloo. Yeah, a really lovely street, one of my favourite streets in London. And this building just has this space that is used for socialising. People sit there and quietly plug away at their laptops doing their work, eat. It's terrific. And then you've got the classrooms sort of surrounding it in a U shape, and that present onto the street. So it is one of my favourites.
Yeah, and again, if you're listening, I mean, this is one of those places that actually, when I saw it on the website, and again, GTH architects.com, go and check it out, because there are some pictures of this atrium in there, and occasionally I think, I really want to go in there because it just looks like such a cool space, and I love the colour and the design and the light and the angles of that atrium. It looks fantastic, and as you say, it's always a good excuse to go down to the Cut, because that is a great street. Lots of good pubs and restaurants on it. There are, yeah. Let's switch topic then a little bit. So that's a great explanation of the meaning, the value behind joyful places, enduring value. Love that. Let's talk about retrofit a little bit. Big topic. Seems to come up a lot. I think just today, somebody this morning was telling me about, there was a stat, something like 2050, 80% of the buildings in 2050 are buildings that are here now. Yeah. I think London's had this, maybe a bit of a supply constraint at the moment as well. I was actually talking to someone about the City of London, which is at something like 95% occupancy. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, big topic. What's it like for you? I mean, how do you think about retrofit? Is this a long-term thing, or is it just a shorter term response to lack of supply in some sectors?
I think that it's an absolutely crucial aspect to the construction sector, to society in a sense, because we can't continue to just simply knock things down and then rebuild again. The retrofit offers the opportunity to keep the bones, to keep, depends on how much is needed to be changed. Buildings are incredibly robust things that it's terribly wasteful if you're going to just strip things down and in a sense just start again. It doesn't stop you adding new bits. There's some fantastic examples where you've got the foundation of an existing building. I mean, we're looking at a building at the moment that was burnt down, but they retained the foundations, and we're going to be building over the top of those, which is we're kind of an extreme example of what we're talking about, but you'll have the carcass of a building that ultimately gives you X amount of space. If you're wanting more, it's not inconceivable that you can add additional floors or bring additional amenities. I mean, when we're talking about these things with clients, there is always that conversation that is asking, how do we add more value? Because, every building isn't necessarily appropriate for a retrofit. From, let's say we're talking office to office. It may be that the floor heights are too low for, what the market is keen to see. It may be that the floor plates are too small. If you have, however, a building that is, in a good location again is a really important factor. If you have a building that's in a good location, it has the vital statistics. It makes huge sense. And then you've got the planning regime now really trying to encourage retrofit in terms of not being the only option, but certainly something. Westminster call it retrofit first, and they make quite an onerous almost checklist of what you have to go through to prove that it's not worth retaining a building in favor of knocking a building down and starting again. So really, I think laudable consideration, and again, it's rather nice in the way that enriches. I think retaining existing buildings, building onto them in a way that you can see that there has been an extra layer. It just adds to the richness of a city. Cities are all about layers and layers and layers of activity that have taken place over centuries, let alone decades. And seeing that in a single building is absolutely fascinating. It just enriches the whole experience of using the building. It's I think, a very exciting avenue. So I don't think that it's any less exciting than building afresh. It's terrifically challenging, but nevertheless something that is really enjoyable.
Do you get the same satisfaction from it as complete new build?
Oh yeah, definitely. It has different challenges. You have to. The first thing you should be doing when you're starting one of these things is survey. Try to get to know where the bodies are buried, to put it crudely. Because it's what you find is sometimes very eye-opening.
You did, because you did a very famous building, the Royal Exchange, in the city. Fantastic building. I don't know when that dates from originally, but it's a pretty old building.
It's actually not that old.
It's not that old, really. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I guess it's got that classical look, isn't it? It makes it look older. But wasn't that a big retrofit? And I think you found some perhaps fabric or unexpected things as you went in there and started to tackle that project.
Yeah. We discovered some sort of interesting issues, but I think that what I can say is that we've been able to really make the building bring it up to what are, I think, pretty high levels, high standards in relation to, peer group buildings in the city. And one of the things that's always encouraging when you've finished a project, maybe I say you finished it, it's been a finished project that's been going now for the last probably 5 years, and we're still working on a ground floor component of it. But every floor that has been brought to market has just whistled out of the door and is occupied. So that's amazingly. It's a little bit of a kind of a feather in the cap when you can see that what you've done has been appreciated by the people that want to go and work in that place. So yeah, that was challenging, but a hugely enjoyable process from the perspective of the technical challenge. But at the same time, working with the team and all of us having to get our heads around how we're going to solve these issues in a way that does justice to the building, sits within the planning constraints because it's a listed building, and then also delivers something that the client is prepared to pay for. And so we managed to square the circle on that one, which I'm very pleased about.
It's another building, actually, when I look at the pictures of people working. I love that, when you've got a very modern working environment, but it's set within a fabulous building with all of that heritage. That looks like a joyful place that you've created there. How do you cost in, unexpected things in a project like that? Because there must be quite a lot of stuff that you until you take the walls down and get into it. How much unexpected stuff is there, and how do you budget for that?
I go back to my point earlier on. It's surveying. If you are, we try to persuade our clients that of the value of surveying in quite a detailed, intrusive way, so that you can see behind the cosmetic skin, the ceilings and the walls that may be encased with a false work and the like, and it's actually seeing the bone structure of the building and getting your head around what condition it's in, whether there's any issues with structure, whether there's any issues with fire. Fire is an incredibly kind of important. Well, there's a vulnerability with every building in relation to fire, and old buildings particularly may have been detailed in such a way as that they don't necessarily comply with current regulations. And when it comes to fire and life safety, there's just, even with sustainability, there are decisions to be made that you can sort of not necessarily go for likes of net zero, but with fire, there's no shortcuts. You've got to make sure that you square up to it and deal with it head on.
Yeah. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about the future of the business. And I'm also struck living where I do in Southwark. There are a lot of architects. I think it's about 250, 300 architects, all doing, they're all fishing. They're all doing great work, or most of them are. Tell me about that. Tell me about, how do you find new business? How do you differentiate yourself? How do you go and find the opportunity to go and build joyful places with enduring value? How do you find those opportunities?
Well, I think that it's important to. One of the things that we're really proud of is that the majority of our work is either by referral or from existing clients. At least 70% of it. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we've still got to kind of keep pursuing new work, and it's always healthy to be doing that anyway. Mm-hmm. I think that we will, when we do that, it is trying to follow leads. As in, when I say leads, we talk to people that we know, and when we try to join the dots between who they know and how we might be able to help some of the people that they know. they're very, more often than not, kind enough to suggest that we go and talk to Fred over in High Wycombe and Mabel in Liverpool Street, and when we can go with at least saying that somebody has been prepared to introduce us, that actually helps enormously. So there is that. We find ourselves pursuing competitions with reasonable success. Obviously, we prefer limited competitions than ones that are open to everybody. And I think that occasionally we'll just get somebody who phones up out of the blue because they've seen some of the work that we do, and we'll open up a conversation there. I think that differentiating ourselves, I think one of the key things that we try to stress is that we regard the service that we provide and the relationships that we build as highly as the product that we make for our clients. So we're a small practice, which is great because we're able to bring senior people to each of the we never withdraw from a project as senior participants in the business, and that I think is a really important kind of differentiator for us. But it's fun, you've got to like people, and you have got to enjoy putting in the legwork and the like, but it's a really satisfying part of the business for I hope, the whole team. We try to encourage the younger guys to engage as well and that sort of stuff.
That was actually going to be my next question, because who does it? So it's very much a team effort, because sometimes I would imagine you go and become an architect, 7 years training. You want to be designing buildings and creating stuff and solving problems, which is quite different, isn't it, from going out there, talking to people, finding referrals, getting the business in. Yeah. Is there a tension there, and how do you get it? If there is, how do you get over that?
I suppose if you want to survive as a business, you've got to do that.
Yeah.
Which is the bottom line. But there's no point in doing it unless, I think, you've got to enjoy it. And we do have people that would prefer in the business to stay focused on what they're working on without, engaging. I'm pleased to say not many, because they're really quite sociable. But it takes all sorts. We got, across the team, there's different personalities, each with their strengths, and it's wonderful to watch, and wonderful to see how they engage with the clients that we have, and how those relationships become mutual. We try very hard to kind of be a practice that encourages people to take that responsibility, to really engage at every level on the project, from consultants through to clients, and be as involved as possible, because that's where you get to see the whole picture. That's where you get to understand the decisions that are being made downstream in the project. If you're not at the table in those conversations, it's a mystery as to why you might be being asked to do X, Y, Z on the project. And so we try to make sure that people are not in the dark. It's an awful place to be. I've been there in the past, and you really don't like it. It's not a nice place. So I think that just out of instinct, people become aware that it's something that is going to be helpful to their career, and ultimately they start to practice. They start to become conversant with how they might go about doing that. The important thing is being authentic, and if there's anything that you've got to be, it's just being authentic, and then the rest follows. Don't try to be something you're not.
Can I just explore that just for 1 minute more, which is, encouragement there's many ways of doing encouragement. Maybe a more organic way where you go to, the heart of what you're trying to do with the business, where you're trying to take the business, the value in relationships and enjoying conversations. Do you ever have to do anything stronger than that? I'm thinking of terms of, KPIs or activity monitoring to get to know that people are genuinely out there engaging with people.
Do you mean internally?
Yeah.
No. I mean, we have, because of we all have to have our quality standards and ISOs and 9001 and all of that. That pushes you down a line that requires a regime of activities that is engaging with the team just to make sure that you're doing things, and we have to do that. There's no way that we want to have a business that is operating with good governance, and those are the things that are most definitely part and parcel. But besides the reviews, which are a very personal, engaged thing, which records the those issues, usually positive issues, but we don't have a kind of KPI process at all. I've seen when we've worked with clients, local authorities have their KPIs and the like to make sure that you're kept on your toes as a business in the way that you engage with them. But it's quite formulaic and cold. We don't go around singing Kumbaya with each other in the office, but it's a much more friendly environment than that.
Yeah. I was more thinking about the business development angle.
Oh, I see. It's a question of getting people to voluntarily engage with it, or so they're not going to do it with any enthusiasm. I think one of the things that we're acutely conscious of, though, is that as we as the practice leaders get older, the decision makers in the industry are getting younger, and it's really important that our kind of our younger girls and guys are engaging with their peers, because they are the ones that are ultimately going to be, getting themselves in positions where they're able to be making instructions on projects.
Yeah, great point. Okay, we're almost at the end, Karl. Let's look ahead. Where next 12, 24 months? What's your ambition? Where would you like the practice to be in a year or two's time? Dream project size, major program, more retrofit.
A dream project, we've been working with Turley planning consultants on they've been monitoring co-living, which is basically what's been happening in London is that housing has been eating sites that are previously given over to employment, and you're getting sort of aspects of the city that are becoming dormitory towns, whereas there's this whole move and excitement around trying to mix the two. So places of employment, places of living on the same site, all within the same red line, and that's exciting. We've been looking at that. We do both commercial and sort of industrial side of things, and the prospect of mixing those two things together on the same side is enormously exciting. The idea of having I'd like a building that is requires a retrofit, that has housing, that has a school mixed into it as well, which that would be brilliant. But we're very excited about the future. It's slow at the moment. There is a kind of a level of indecision that we're experiencing that's being caused by all manner of different forces that I think we all know about. And that said, I sense an uptick in optimism. And I think, we all have to be optimistic if we're going to succeed. So it's going to be a bumper year and a bumper couple of years. I look forward to it.
Great. Well, on that very positive note, I hope that's great to hear somebody that is thinking positively and maybe is hearing a few positive signs. And let's see what Andy Burnham, the new PM, what he's got in store for us. But great to hear.
Great to hear from holiday.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he's on holiday at the moment, isn't he? Yes, but I don't know. I'm sensing a bit more of a. I think everybody's gunning for and hoping that we're in for a different era maybe coming up.
I hope so. Yeah. We've kind of managed to. We get by through financial crash. We get by through Brexit. We get by through COVID, and it would be nice if there was a sustained period of. I'm not going to say sunny uplands, but something which gives everybody a little bit of a lift, and and that goes across the whole piece rather than just the construction industry. It would be very welcome, certainly from our factory, from our perspective.
Yeah. Well, let's hope so. Karl, thank you very much for your time today. Really fascinating conversation, and best of luck with the year ahead.